Here to cover all things crime, history, and politics, we are at the desk. I'm your host, Tyler, and in today's episode, Yaya will host the politics panel and talking about the Department of Government Efficiency with a special appearance from Councilman Josh Portney. Then we'll send it over to Nikolai to take a look at Thon and its evolution over the years, and we'll end with the history panel hosted by Audrey honoring President's Day by looking at some important moves by past presidents. Now come take a seat with us at the desk. Welcome back to At the Desk. First, it's time to send it over to the politics panel with Councilman Josh Portney. Take it away, Yaya.
Thanks, Tyler. Doge. You may have heard this word thrown around a bit in the last few weeks. Unfortunately, we are not referring to the beloved meme where the Shiba Inu narrates your own internal dialogue. We are talking about the Department of Government Efficiency. This new government agency, and I use that term very loosely, has drawn quite a lot of attention to itself. Before we get into that, I would like to thank Councilman Portney for joining us today as a guest panelist. Councilman Portney, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are now. You know, Penn State alum, and then now landed as a councilman here in State College. So walk us through your journey a little bit before we get into the meat of things.
Sure. So I first came to Penn State in fall 2019 as a freshman, right before COVID kind of ended the world. And I was actually a comm major, a communications major. And then I added political science as a double major. I was able to do it because I brought in some credits. And I've always been involved in local government. I'm originally from Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, so just outside Philadelphia. And I was involved in local government there. I was involved in community organizing there. And I wanted to continue that when I came up here to Penn State and State College. And I've just loved Happy Valley. I've latched on to the local government scene and the politics scene. And so I was appointed to the Planning Commission. I was probably the first student to be appointed to the Planning Commission, which that's the commission that deals with all those high rises that you see and the development that we have downtown affecting, our student housing and other development like that. So when I was appointed to that, I really got a full look at local government. And I loved it. I loved it so much that I wanted to be on the council because, Planning Commission makes recommendations to council on zoning issues and planning issues, but council is the final say. And so I wanted to be a part of council. So I ran for council. I graduated in December 2022. I announced my candidacy. So I got into Penn State Law. I got in on a Wednesday, and I announced my candidacy for office on a Friday. And so I knew I wanted to stay. I knew I wanted to be here, and I loved it. I won a contested primary in May 2023, won the general election, and here we are. It's my second year on council, and I'm loving it. And I'm still in law school too.
That is so cool. We have our own local government fanatic right here, our very own Ryan Lowy. So before we get
not as good as Josh.
Before we get into things, I want to open it up to the rest of the panelists. If you guys have any questions for Councilman Portney before we get started, just to get to know you, for our audience to get to know you a little better, because it's not often that we have actual people who are involved in the policymaking process here.
Yes, Councilman. Yes. So how exactly is the local budget here in State College managed amongst you and the mayor and everyone else?
Sure. So council is primarily responsible for the budget. The mayor has no formal role in the budget, but council is responsible for adopting the budget. So we have a staff. We have a staff of almost 200 individuals who work for us. These are incredible individuals. There are department heads. They do public works, police. They do, everything. Our streets are just taken care of so well. Community engagement, and they all submit budget requests to the manager, who is basically like the chief of staff of the entire borough of State College. That budget gets transmitted to us, after he makes the edits and whatnot, and we go line by line and really look at it. And it was a $70 million budget this year. We had to raise taxes, unfortunately, just a bit, 18% raised taxes, but that equates to about 3 mils, which when you look at your property tax bill, and most of your viewers are probably not property owners, but if you do own a house, you have your municipal bill, you have your school district bill, and your county bill. The largest is always the school district. The municipal and the county are sort of in the middle. Our county or our municipal is around 20 mils, which means that your assessed value. I'm going to get really into it, but your assessed value on your home and it's determined that way. So basically, we had to raise it by 3 mils. It was a tough decision we had to do, but it was in order to fund higher costs on insurance costs and higher costs on pensions and other things like that. But we had to get back to a stable, structured budget, and that's really the work of our chief of staff, our township manager, or borough manager, and of the department heads trying to work and seeing where we can cut and get waste out of the budget. And so we voted unanimously to adopt the budget. And this year we're really taking a look at affordability and making sure that we're keeping our costs low, making sure that we can really hold the line on taxes this year.
Well, I just learned a lot. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, everything makes sense now, honestly. Living in a college town, my pockets are screaming all the time. So.
Well, and I think the cool thing about having a local representative here is that people don't always necessarily understand the impact that their local government has on them. Because a lot of the times people are thinking national government, like that's what we need to be paying attention to. But really, it's your local government that's affecting you every day. So we thank you for being here and talking with us a little bit more about all these things.
Absolutely. I always say, there was always a saying, all politics is local. It's true. It really is true. How many times is the president of the United States going to affect your day-to-day life? I mean, we're going to talk about it a little bit. Maybe it'll affect your
changed recently.
Right. And we'll talk about the power of the overreaching executive. But when it comes to how much is your congressman going to affect your day-to-day life? How much is your governor going to affect your day-to-day life? It's actually your local government officials, your school board members, your council members, your county commissioners.
Right.
Those are the people that are affecting your taxes and your streets, like what I was talking about, your public works, making sure that our streets are clear, making sure that, we had an event in Beaver Canyon at the Super Bowl parade, making sure that, our police are well funded and making sure that people are safe and doing the right things. This is what affects you. And you can talk, and I get stopped in the grocery store all the time. It's true. People want to talk to your local government because they're so reachable. They're in your community.
Right.
So I actually have just a general question that I think a lot of people sometimes, they don't think about it every day, but it's certainly, I think, a question that does come up sometimes is when you see State College, sometimes you'll see borough of or State College borough.
Mm-hmm.
What makes that different from a township or a city or, in Bloomsburg's case, a town? Like, can you just explain the difference?
I like the local government nerd because that is the only town in Pennsylvania, Bloomsburg. So I like that. So we are a borough of State College. In 1973, we officially made our charter as a home rule charter. We're distinct from, we are an instrumentality of the state. So we're basically, an instrumentality of the state government. But we are our own local entity. And everyone likes to say, oh, State College, but I'm in Ferguson. Or, oh, I'm in State College, but I'm in Tofties. That's technically not the borough of State College. We're just the borough of State College. The really only designation is that we are that home rule. We can really set our own. We have a lot of leniency with our structure of government because of the home rule charter and because we call ourselves a borough. We also have drawbacks too with that because the state does ban us from doing a lot of things because the state likes to have control over, like, a drink tax or something like that. Like, we can't do that. That would be a rogue action that we can't do. But with the borough, it also, if you as a local government nerd, that there are boroughs and they have their
really
own.
Been branded.
they have their own charm, right? If you go to the borough, like the borough of Ambler, if you know where Montgomery County in southeastern Pennsylvania, it's got that charm, that small town feel. It's got the main strip. That's really very, very distinct of a borough. You know a borough when you see one, and we're one of them. And we have got a charming downtown, but it's also a boisterous downtown, as you know, and we love it. We love it as well. And we have a world-class institution and that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand. Penn State is within our jurisdiction. So the municipal limits of the borough of State College include the majority of the Pennsylvania State University Park campus. So all the campus is within our jurisdiction. So your borough council members, me and the 6 other people and the mayor, we do have jurisdiction over campus, right where I'm sitting right now, which is great.
Yeah.
But not Beaver Stadium.
But not Beaver Stadium. That's right across the line, and that. We've talked about that. That's College Township, which is right on the line.
I've always been so confused, like just driving past, like College Township, Ferguson Town. And I'm like, what does that even mean? But
And now we know.
Thank you for that.
They have their distinct identities, and I think that there was an effort in the 90s to consolidate us all. So Philadelphia is a consolidated city because in 1854 they consolidated they were like 50 or something individual municipalities, and they all consolidated to be Philadelphia, and that's why it's that weird shape. There was an effort in the 90s to consolidate all the townships that make up the center region, which is the State College postal code. It failed. it only succeeded in State College Borough. The voters of State College Borough, if you segment it out and look at the election results, they voted overwhelmingly to do it. Nobody else wanted to. And that speaks to every individual municipality has its own charm. And that's what's beautiful. Ferguson's a farming community. Patton is more of industrial. It's got top trees and the shopping centers. College is more of that east, stadium district, and very different. So, yeah.
Thank you for
Should we
that.
talk Doge?
Let's talk Doge. I'm very excited. So let's just go ahead and get to it. Like, I don't even know where to start with this, guys. So somebody explain to me, because I'm asking this like as a genuine question. Somebody explain to me how this worked. How we have Elon Musk now sitting at the head of a new government agency, didn't go through a Congress confirmation, didn't go through any type of vetting process. It was just one day I woke up and he's in the Oval Office doing a press conference with number 47. So
And his son X.
And his son X, which, by the way, actually, look
Weird.
at, I won't comment on the name, actually.
I will.
I'm the last
It's
person to do
weird.
that. But, so what do we think about that? The fact that Elon Musk just essentially breezed through all of these processes that we've had installed for forever, and is now arguably one of the most powerful people in America. I mean, he has been, I guess. But Josh, I'll start with you.
I'll say this, I told you that I went to law school. I go to law school at Penn State Law, so I have a little bit of legal knowledge about what this is. We go through constitutional law all the time, and you talk about whether or not it's an actually new. It is not a new entity that was formed. It was reapportioned, amended from the Office of Digital Services that Obama created, and that's really not right. It
doesn't explain the powers.
It doesn't explain the powers. So when you have Elon Musk, he's a special government employee, which Congress set up to allow for just, I guess, political friends or whatever of the president to work 130 days within the administration, and then they're no longer allowed to work after 130 days, or they have to get congressional re-up. But when you talk about department heads that have the force of law to do things like making firings and making reorganizations, they have to go through Senate confirmation. They're called superior officers in the United States Constitution. What I believe, and this is how it's been explained to me, is Doge is an advisory panel. It is trying to advise, so it's advised like the DOD. So our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, said that he's going to listen to Doge's recommendations on the reorganization of the military. Doge didn't, in that case, make a literal legal effect. They didn't make state action, but they basically recommended it. And so it's like, okay, you got access to all this information. You didn't go through the classified vetting. You didn't go through, like, I applied to be a White House intern, and I had to go through dozens and dozens of paperwork and vetting, and I didn't get it. But I had to go through all of this paperwork and all of this. I got to fingerprint it. They looked at my family history, everything. I don't think Elon has any of that, which is really scary to me. And that's where the constitutional law gets broken, because he's got access to all this information in order to make him make these recommendations. And so where's that line? And I think it's been crossed. That's what I got to say.
So before leaving office, Biden gave us a very cryptic video message talking about the oligarchy that is taking form in the United States. Jackson, I want to start with you, and then I'm going to open it up to the rest of the panel. Do you see Biden's message as kind of coming true? Do you think he was exaggerating a little bit? Do you think that Elon Musk's newfound role in the executive branch is questionable? How are you feeling about this?
I think it's definitely a new thing. It's definitely something we haven't really seen before. But yeah, like Councilman said, Elon Musk doesn't have any actual power in this. He's more of just an advisor. I think that what we call Doge is more of a watchdog group, not an actual agency. So what they are doing is they're gathering information. They're finding things that they think don't need to be in the government, telling President Trump this doesn't mean the government, that he makes the actual moves. And Pete Hegseth, people like that who actually have been confirmed or elected, make the decisions. And most of the things they're targeting are simply DEI initiatives. They're targeting federal employees they feel like aren't really doing anything. People who are just kind of sitting in their homes and just getting paid by taxpayer money and not really serving the public as they're supposed to be doing. But I think what they're trying to do is just trying to save taxpayers money. And so far, they've saved approximately $49 billion in the first under a month. So I think they are doing things. You can question whether they're constitutional or not. We can get into the law aspect in a little bit. You got into a little bit back there. But I do think they are making some results happen so far.
But I also think the concern with that is that they were given, like Elon Musk was given private personal data of U.S. taxpayers. and that shouldn't be happening. He was not going through a rigorous process. He wasn't vetted. He wasn't confirmed in. He just showed up one day, and then all of a sudden he has access to our information. I don't think that's necessarily fair, and that's part of the problem that people are having with this, and that's why you're seeing so many lawsuits coming up, is because you shouldn't be having access to so many Americans' private information.
I'm going to echo that. I think that's the biggest problem. And I agree, you can look through, you can make recommendations, and that's fine. I disagree that DEI workers and other workers that he's recommended are not doing their jobs, because they fired 500 air traffic control workers, and they were definitely doing their jobs. So firing them is not necessarily cutting taxpayer waste. But the issue that I have, and that you articulated, is the information that's just been shared with him without any vetting. Elon is, and then there's the questions of self-dealing. Is he self-dealing? He's interested in this, right? He has a corporation, Tesla and SpaceX. They're interested in getting government contracts. He's got access to data about contracts and social security numbers and taxpayer information. He could probably use that to then, say, oh, wait, this is not great. But you know what is great? My company's product here. And so that's where we get into I think,
I have feelings about that, but I want to let Mr. Lowry speak.
I see this as a direct insult to the Pendleton Service Act, which was passed in 1883. 2 years earlier, a gentleman with the last name of Gato killed the sitting president out of frustration for not receiving a position. And the reason why I bring that up is because that really just symbolizes how badly people want power in today's age, who have a lot of influence, like Gato, and have a lot of money. And I'm not obviously hinting at all about death, but I'm hinting about the fact that when you appoint people like this into very strong positions, they're acting as an officer of the United States. And that has to be directly approved through congressional law. And that did not happen. And that is very concerning, key to, as you were saying, with fingerprints, and as well what you were saying with him having access to private information. These are all things that he is basically doing due to just his personal relationship with Trump and his money.
I think it's very scary. Jackson, you brought up the questioning of the constitutionality, but the fact that they're producing results. For me personally, I don't think I want to see results if they're happening outside of the scope of our American Constitution. I feel like we have that for a reason. Regardless of the problems that I may have with the Founding Fathers, they wrote a really good document, really airtight.
If the courts do prove him to be unconstitutional, then he will be handled in that way.
He's acting as an officer of the U.S.
Yeah, will he, though? That's the question. He has not so far listened to federal circuit court judges.
Well, I think only so many lines can be crossed. I mean, once he crosses a certain line, then he would have to be handled in a certain way. I mean, obviously, we do have the Constitution. It's there. Everyone can read it. And if he crosses the line to a degree, I think he will be handled. So far, I haven't seen any evidence he's crossed it to the point where I think any judge would say anything, because, I mean, everything's been allowed so far, obviously. But yeah, I think that no line has really been crossed yet. If it does cross, I will condemn him like anyone else, because obviously the Constitution is the law of the land.
Well, so then if there's lawsuits against this action, does that not constitute a line being crossed that people are upset about because they're taking legal action against it?
Well, people get upset at a lot of things. I don't think that just because there's a lawsuit filed against something, that means that the people filing the lawsuit are correct.
Right.
And as for him having access to taxpayer documents
Personal
and private
information,
I think there are so many people who have had access to people's information, private information over the years. I'm not really concerned that much about Elon Musk having access compared to anyone else.
Really?
I do.
I personally don't think Elon Musk is the worst person or the best person to have access to it. I think that there have been so many poor politicians, poor-minded politicians, let's just say, bureaucrats who have gotten access to that.
I just gave you an example of murder. That I'm not saying murder is going to come out of this, but I just gave you an example similar to this situation of how he came in power.
Yes, I think it's sort of like us being super worried about China stealing TikTok data. I mean, I think that there have been plenty of bad people who have access to our data and our private information. I don't think it's that big of a concern personally.
I think it is, and I don't want to jump into the thing here, but I think that I'll give you this example, and I'll bring it back home to State College. I'm a council member. I pass a budget. We have lots of taxpayers, right? We have thousands of taxpayers. I can't even, if I requested getting individual level taxpayer data, I can't even get that, and nor would I want to. But if I wanted to, right, I couldn't even do it. And the point is that literally, and Congress can't either. Congress can't get individual level taxpayer data, the social security numbers that he's getting, the data points that he's getting. That just doesn't happen. And so for him to be able to have that and not be a person in expertise, like IRS, you want IRS data, you got to be a CPA, you got to be somebody who's an expert in the field. That's what we have administrative agencies for. He does not that. So I don't know why he's got it.
He's got money. and he's got a good relationship with Donald
Well,
Trump.
that's why.
And
I don't
that's-
know why legally.
And that's very worrying to me again, because it's like at the end of the day, America prides itself as a nation of being a meritocracy. If you think Elon Musk is the best businessman in the world, that's your prerogative, but that doesn't justify him being essentially the president's right-hand man and having access to like our social security numbers. Like that is so insane to me. I think that wanting the government to be more efficient, wanting them to be more transparent, as they have tried to do with their wall of receipts, which I think is a very interesting concept. And I do think that government transparency is needed. But I think that this is the wrong person to be going to, especially if I personally cannot say with confidence that I believe that Elon Musk has anything other but his own interest at heart. Like I can't really say that with confidence. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today. Once again, thank you so much, Councilman Portney. We hope our friends in the audience enjoyed this episode with our guest panelists. Is the United States so long praised as the beacon of modern democracy heading towards oligarchy? Are we already there? I can't answer that question this episode, but it's definitely one to return to over the next 4 years. Stick with us as we continue to provide our commentary on the state of American politics. We'll save a seat for you next week at the desk. Back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Yaya. Stay tuned. Next up, we're taking a trip back to 1973 and talking about the history of Thon.
Every single year, Thon, the largest student-run philanthropy in the world, is held right here at Penn State University. Thon is a year-long fundraising campaign that culminates in a 46-hour, no-sitting, no-sleeping dance marathon. Thon is an organization whose mission is to enhance the lives of children and families impacted by childhood cancer. It looks to provide emotional and financial support, spread awareness, and ensure funding for critical research, all in pursuit of a cure for pediatric cancer. This year's Thon is just around the corner. But before that, let's take a look back at the history of Thon to see how it started and how it has evolved throughout its 52-year history. The first Thon was held 52 years ago in 1973. The event came about when former IFC President Bill Lear proposed a dance marathon to raise money for a worthy cause. At this time, the event was not referred to as Thon, but instead it was called the IFC Dance Marathon. It occurred in Penn State's Hub Ballroom. It includes 78 dancers who compete against each other, with the event lasting 30 hours and raising $2,136 for the Butler County chapter of the Arc of Pennsylvania. 4 years later, in 1977, arguably the most important part of Thon's entire history took place when Thon first partnered with the Four Diamonds. Now, it's important to understand the history of Four Diamonds to truly understand the history of Thon itself. The Four Diamonds was founded in 1972 by Charles and Irma Millard in honor of their son, Christopher Millard. Christopher was just 11 years old when he was diagnosed with cancer. Before he unfortunately lost his 3-year battle with cancer, Christopher wrote a story called The Four Diamonds. It was about a knight who was in search of the diamonds of courage, wisdom, honesty, and strength, so that the knight could be released from the grips of an evil sorceress. The Four Diamonds were a symbol of the attributes that Christopher's family believed were necessary to overcome cancer. As a way of honoring their son, Christopher's parents founded Four Diamonds, which covers 100% of the medical expenses related to cancer care not covered by insurance for eligible Four Diamond children. In the first year of their partnership, $28,685 was raised for Four Diamonds, but that number would soon rapidly increase. In 1979, Thon moved to the White Building due to the ever-increasing demand for the event. Also this year, the dancers would no longer be competing against each other, and instead all had the shared goal of standing for the entire event, a concept that has been an essential aspect of Thon ever since. In 1983, Thon hit 6 figures for the first time by raising $132,000 and $182. And 1 year later, Thon was acknowledged as the largest philanthropy of its kind. Fast forward to 1987, the name was officially changed from the IFC Dance Marathon to its current title, Thon. And 5 years after that, Thon broke the 1 million mark, raising $1,141,000, $145.38. The Thon Family Carnival, a mainstay in the lead-up to Thon, first took place in 1997, and in 1998, those not at Thon could finally see what the event was all about, as it was live-streamed for the first time ever. And a year later, it was moved for the third time, this time to the Rec Hall. 3 years later, another mainstay of the lead up to Thon took place, that being the Thon 5K. Thon was moved for the final time in 2007 for its 35th anniversary, where Thon was moved to a venue that doubled the capacity of the Rec Hall, the Bryce Jordan Center, the venue where Thon has remained to this very day. And that takes us to the present, where last year Thon broke its fundraising total for the third consecutive year, raising $16,955,683.63. Each year, Thon has over 700 dancers with 16,500 student volunteers involved in the event, and throughout its extensive history, Thon has helped over 4,800 families and raised over $236 million. I hope to see you all this weekend at Thon for the kids. I'm Nikolai Wagner. Back to you, Tyler.
We are back at the desk. Now we'll send it to the history panel as they match previous presidents to their legislation. Over to you, Audrey.
Thanks, Tyler. President's Day originally was made to cement George Washington's birthday as a national holiday, but now the day is used more broadly to honor and reflect on the legacy of U.S. presidents. Well, it is if your office or school makes it a holiday day. If not, it's just another holiday you don't know the date of, despite it being the third Monday of February every year. But even though Penn State didn't give us the day off yesterday, the history panel and I are here to reflect on our previous presidents and the legislation they passed. Like a lot of our panels, we've made it a guessing game for each other. So we each found a couple of pieces of legislation, and our fellow panelists will have to guess during which presidency was the legislation passed. Let's jump right in. You guys ready?
I love our guessing games.
I know these are so
How
fun.
did you guys celebrate President's Day?
By going to class.
Going to
class.
Going
I
didn't do that, so
Looking up legislation from presidents on President's Day.
preparing for Thon.
I
There you
said
go.
thank you to each and every single president. Each and every single one. Yeah.
Every 40
All of
seconds.
them?
Yeah.
Even Ronald Reagan?
That's nice of you.
not all of them. I didn't say thank you to Andrew Jackson. I kind of skipped him over.
Right, we
right,
learned that
right,
he's a
right.
magnet.
We have beef with
Right.
him.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Let's-
this panel has beef with him.
Let's start them up.
I'm excited.
All right, the first one. This one's mine. So we're gonna say the name of the legislation first, and then we'll have to guess which president. And so my first one's kind of a trick, a little bit. So the blank doctrine, and the blank is their last name, so I couldn't say it. But my options are Andrew Jackson, James Monroe, Millard Fillmore, or Ulysses S. Grant.
You know, when you sent this in the group chat, I was convinced it was going to be Truman.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Monroe because the Monroe Doctrine sounds pretty cool to me.
I'm right there with you, Leah.
I'm gonna say anything but Fillmore. The Fillmore Doctrine. That does not sound real. I'm gonna go with the Monroe Doctrine too.
For the sake of spiting our good friend Andrew Jackson, I'm going to go with Ulysses S. Grant, Civil War hero, Ulysses S. Grant.
So this is actually the Monroe Doctrine. So it was put out in a president's address to Congress by James Monroe in 1823. It warned European powers basically to stay away from Western affairs. And it was backed by the Royal Navy because this would also help the United Kingdom because their land is being encroached onto. So they're like, hey guys, we should team up. And everyone was like, oh,
That's fascinating. I love
And look
the
at where we are
idea of the Eastern powers not encroaching on us, or just European powers, when that's kind of flipped in today's world. You know, Ukraine's always on the news here, and it's like, what's America going to do about it? You know?
yeah, now we're
They're
trying to
like,
buy Greenland, and
Yeah,
et cetera.
that was one of George Washington's very first proclamations as president. He said that you should not get yourself involved in foreign affairs too much.
And look where we are
And
now.
look where we are
We
now.
love foreign affairs over here.
We do. Lovely.
I absolutely love them.
Anyway, this one's mine. So this is, it's got a boring name. It's Section 1 of the 25th Amendment, meaning if the sitting president should be removed from office for whatever reason, whether they die or what, the vice president would take over their duties. So here are your options. You've got James A. Garfield, John F. Kennedy, William Henry Harrison, or Zachary Taylor.
I'm gonna go with Zachary Taylor. I don't think Harrison did anything.
Yeah,
and the
wasn't
JFK
Harrison in there for like one?
Yeah, he was there for like a month.
I'm also going to say Zachary Taylor. If it was JFK, then that would be some crazy foresight.
Yeah,
That's what I was
just
gonna say.
that.
Like, that's why I think
We should look into that. if that's
Yeah. Lyndon B. Johnson was over his shoulder, like, hey, I think you should write this.
it.
I'm going to say William Henry Harrison,
I'll say
because Jay
Zachary
hated
Taylor.
on him.
All right. Good job, Brandon. So William Henry Harrison is our beloved 9th president. He was sworn into office on March 4th of 1841. Didn't really get a chance to pass a whole lot of legislation since his term only lasted 31 days.
Right.
He died of pneumonia exactly a month after his inauguration. But that also meant that there was a decision to be made. And they made the decision that should the president die, the vice president should take over for him. So
Oh,
there you
so
go.
he died, and then
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh, so
But I feel
So
like
it's
they
his fault.
knew. They knew
Who's
it was
next?
happening.
But it was
So-
still his presidency.
He was the first president to
Oh,
die
but
in
he
office.
knew.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
He
I,
was like, I'm sick.
how
I'm
long did
probably-
it take
about
them to figure
foresight.
that out? Is my question, because I feel
Oh,
like
they
it's a
were- I
pretty
mean-
logical next step.
It does make a lot of sense, but they did have to write it down.
Yeah,
Right.
that's fair.
So
Yeah.
the 9 presidents? Okay.
Well, they weren't going to die in office. George Washington crossed the
I'm just
Delaware to go
saying,
fight the
like,
Brits. He wasn't going to die from
not,
anything.
Not coming in
Two or
on a
two
not
hard
coming up with a
knocks.
little
Yeah.
contingency
Yeah.
plan is a little crazy, but
Fought tooth and nail.
you know, that's what we love about America, just flying by the seat of our pants all the time.
Mhm.
All right, so which president, this is mine, was responsible for the Federal Reserve Act? So, Brandon's sitting next to me, so I'm shooting my answers. Your choices are Ulysses S. Grant, John Adams, William Taft, or Woodrow Wilson.
Show me Grant. I like
Give me
Grant.
what Wilson.
I think Wilson is calling to me too.
I'm going to fire off Adams.
All right, well, my ladies, you are correct. It was, in fact,
High five.
Woodrow
Let's
Wilson.
go.
So this is actually the first time that our central bank was really established. They had attempted to do some stuff earlier, but this was like the defining moment. We were like, yes, central bank. And here we are. Now we're not printing any more pennies, so I wonder what Wilson would think of that today. But
It's an interesting twist of phrase. Get to the pennies.
I don't know. I just feel like I like thinking about presidents that passed legislation and seeing it change now and being like, what would you think? Like, would you be mad? Like, I'd be mad.
They probably
Like,
think we're idiots.
right? Because if I passed a law, why are you changing it?
And he didn't get to be on any of the bills. If I started the Federal Reserve, I'd be like, I want a dollar bill of some sort.
true.
You know, like
you're so right.
The 3 or
100.
something.
No.
Why
Yeah.
is Ben Franklin on
Somebody
there?
I mean,
bring it back
he
to
did
life.
Not a
oppose,
president.
like women's rights. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not too.
Yeah, I mean,
I
he
don't care
wasn't- he
too much
wasn't
about
batting
him.
for a
He
thousand.
was like,
Actually kind of terrible. So.
yeah, he wasn't
Yeah.
the greatest
That's okay.
guy. I don't
His
know.
name is Woodrow. I mean, come on.
I
So,
also
no.
did not thank him.
He needed
Just, like, wanna put
revenge
that out
for-
there.
Sure.
I like the alliteration though.
Yeah,
All right.
works.
You guys like going for him.
Or what's next?
All right. The Individuals with Disabilities Act. It actually was the Individuals with Disabilities in Education Act, IDEA for short.
Are you a teaching major, Shay?
I am a teaching major. I'm doing secondary English. Very relevant to me. All right, guys, what are we thinking?
I like Gerald Ford. Well,
Gerald.
not that I like him, but I like the.
That's nice, Brandon.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for sharing.
Something telling me it was not Nixon. So I'm gonna go with H.W. Bush.
HW.
I think I'm gonna jump in with Yaya too.
What about you,
Killing
JB?
me. I was going to go with HW as well. I'll do it. That's fine.
Guys, it pains me to have to say this, but Brandon got it right. It was
Oh,
Gerald
no. To say
Ford. So yeah, this is the reason we have what is known as an IEP or an individualized education plan. It basically guarantees people with disabilities and who need special education the right to a free and appropriate public education. Before this, they either were being denied from public schools or they just weren't given the resources that they needed. And this also gives parents and students due process and just more rights in general.
Mm.
And yeah, I think it's a really, really important step when it comes to equity and equality in classrooms.
I knew I liked him.
Soul read.
Yeah, I sold him through his name, man.
Thought I'd throw George Bush in there, No Child Left Behind, confuse you guys a little bit. And you guys took the bait for the wrong Bush though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
well, 'cause we know
I don't wanna
there were
talk about it.
definitely some children left behind.
Yeah, there was plenty of children
Couldn't
left
be
behind.
him.
That's fascinating, though. I think it's very interesting that he was the one that passed that. I also think that it's interesting the way that they're still improperly funded to this day in many
absolutely.
regards. All right, this one is mine. So this one's fun because I bet none of you guys know what the 18th Amendment is. And this proclamation is the repeal of the 18th Amendment. So when you find out what the 18th Amendment is, you'll understand why I picked it, or at least understand that it's relevant.
I have a feeling I know what the 18th Amendment is, but I'm not sure.
I'm gonna go with FDR.
Okay.
I know he did a lot.
He was, because of our good friend William Henry Harrison, that's why he was the president.
Yeah.
So
I'm in between FDR and Herbert Hoover
Me
because
too.
I feel like the 18th Amendment, if it is what I think it is, it's definitely not Jimmy Carter or JFK. I'm gonna not copy Shane. I'm gonna go with Hoover.
I'm gonna copy Yaya and I'll go with Hoover as well.
Gosh, I should stop going last. I wanted to go Hoover. We'll do that. We'll see.
3 Hoovers, 1 FDR. Does anyone have any predictions for what the 18th Amendment was?
I don't want to look stupid.
Me
No, I won't
neither. I'm
pretend.
gonna write. Actually, let me write it down, and we'll see.
You're going to write it down and then we're going to see if it's right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Shay, congratulations. It was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He repealed the 18th Amendment, which was, can we see your answer first?
No, say it first.
Okay, it was prohibition.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah?
Alcohol limit.
Yeah, alcohol limit, yes. Okay.
I'm so smart, guys.
So he repealed the 18th Amendment, which obviously was prohibition, so no alcohol consumption in the United States. Now, a lot of people know about prohibition. They also mostly know, but it was very negative, the effects of prohibition, a lot more than positive. Obviously, gangs like Al Capone, right, bootlegging across states, moonshine, all of that.
Did we do an episode?
We
on
did do an
prohibition?
episode.
Okay,
We did.
great.
And good old Franklin D here is the supporter of many a bar in State College. So crime rate rose. The support was also very low at this point in time. The Roaring 20s happened. And then right around this time was the Great Depression. There was a need for money. So FDR was kind of like, we need some sort of kickstart around here. And they decided we should make alcohol legal again. And then that's what happened. Also, something that's not talked about is the states' rights argument here with prohibition and the ending of that with FDR's 2065 proclamation, because the states' rights argument with prohibition was it should be up to the states to make the decision on if there could be alcohol or not. And it gave the federal government a lot of power to limit what kind of alcohol could be sold, because it actually wasn't all alcohol. Not a lot of people know that. It was above 0.5% alcohol. So like light alcoholic drinks were still allowed. So FDR basically saw the states' rights argument coming, thought about Abe Lincoln a lot, and thought about, federalism versus Democratic Republicans from way back at the start of America. And he made the executive decision that we got to end this. And that's why we have doggies, pickles, and all the great places in State College today. Our good friend FDR. And we have FDR because of William Henry Harrison.
I love how it all connects. And at the end of the
they're
day,
all
it comes back to
connected.
just having a
It's
drink with
true.
the boys.
Everyone.
Two totally different answers.
Ooh.
All right, this one is mine. So, which president was responsible for the tariff of 1842, or the Black Tariff? So, are we thinking Martin Van Buren, James Polk, Franklin Pierce, or John Tyler?
I feel like I don't really hear about John Tyler that often. I'm gonna go with John Tyler, underrated guy.
What if he was just like a terrible human being? Anyways,
I feel
Underrated.
like we know. I feel like we know about him. If he was,
I'm gonna go with Van Buren.
I love me some Franklin Pierce, but I'm going to go with James Polk.
Wasn't Franklin Pierce notoriously handsome? Or am I thinking of another one? It was
That's
him?
the one.
Yeah. Show me Jimmy Polk.
It was John Tyler. So, Shay, again, she's killing it today. So, the Tariff Act of 1842, signed by John Tyler, it effectively raised tariffs to protect northern manufacturing interests. It raised tariffs to almost 40%, and replaced the credit system of tariff finance with a cash payment system. And this was in order to protect, to restore protectionist policies that were reversed by the compromise tariff of 1833. And I think in some politics panel, a couple episodes ago, maybe you guys were talking about how presidents just undo what the previous president did. And I think this was a interesting example.
Don't let somebody get a copy of this one.
It's a lot of doing and undoing.
the next
I will
in American
mention
politics.
that John Tyler was the vice president that succeeded William Henry Harrison. So it all kind of ties in.
Everything comes back to Harrison, guys. What is happening?
We need to
Yeah, let's see it.
All right, what's our next one?
This one is mine.
Annex,
Texas.
Texas.
Ooh.
I think I'm gonna go with Hayes. I'm gonna go with Rutherford. I don't know why.
Well, you just mentioned your love for Franklin Pierce, so I think I'm kind of gonna place my eggs in that basket.
I don't
Handsome.
know.
He's a
I'm
good-looking
gonna go
guy.
with Buchanan only because I really like his last name.
I'm also going to go with James Buchanan.
Man, you guys completely whiffed. It was James K. Polk.
Oh.
You fell into my Franklin Pierce trap. Yeah.
Dang it.
Our 11th president, James Polk, got a lot done in his single term in office. One of the more major actions being that he annexed the then independent country that was the Republic of Texas in the midst of the Mexican-American War. It was a pretty substantial geographical addition to our country, and ended up with our 28th state. So,
Look at
yeah.
that.
Was that a bigger in Texas pun? Substantial. The
Ah.
substantial ad. Okay.
Of course.
That was good.
All right, let's
That's
see.
good.
Everything-
Just rolls off the tongue with this guy.
I know.
Everything's bigger in Texas.
Everything is
Let's see
bigger
what
in
that-
Texas.
Great Megan Thee Stallion song.
All right,
by
we're
the
going
way.
to do one more. So whose is this one?
All right, this is me. So, which president passed the Immigration Act of 1924? You guys might have to do a little searching in your historical vaults.
24.
Almost,
Wait a
actually,
minute,
101
wait a
years
minute.
ago. Wow, isn't that crazy?
I'm going to go. That feels like a really bad
I'm gonna
guess,
go
but I'll pick
Coolidge.
Hoover.
Show me Coolidge.
I'm going Warren.
All right, well, Shane, Brandon, you guys were correct. It was
Dang it.
Calvin Coolidge. I was really gunning for the alliteration this episode. But this act limited the number of immigrants allowed into entry through a national origins quota. So I think for every country allowed, they were only allowing 2% of the immigrants who were applying to come to the US. And they excluded people from Eastern Asian nationality completely. And given the socio-political state of our country right now, I thought that this was very relevant. Immigration has always been a hot topic in the United States. So the fact that we keep seeing these same conversations happen over and over again, almost more than 100 years ago, I think is really, really something to reflect on.
Definitely. History repeats itself. Well, this was a great conversation, but unfortunately, that is all the time that we have tonight to discuss old legislation. Next President's Day, if you see it coming, make sure to think of and pray to your favorite president. And like Bloody Mary, they'll appear in your mirror. Sorry. We'll see you next time. Back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Audrey. Sadly, that is all the time we have for today. Next week, the crime panel will be diving into a brand new case. Megan Wiley has a preview. Take a look. In the meantime, stay updated. Stay updated with ATD on all of our socials at PSU at the desk, and let us know what you want to see us cover next. I'm Tyler, and we will see you back at the desk next week.